Welcome to Color Correction, a Jesusy podcast about race and faith from the perspective of a Black girl, an Asian guy, and a white guy too. My name is Andrew. I use he, him pronouns. I am Asian.
My name is Bethany. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm Black.
I'm Kris. I'm white, and I use he, him pronouns.
And here we are in our second ever live Juneteenth anniversary episode.
Yeah.
All right. That was a good cheer. I apologize, Kris, for giving you crap about that. It works. It totally works in a live format. I'm skeptical in general, so
That's right.
That's bad on me.
You know what? Send some applause icons in the chat.
Yeah, do that. So Bethany, is Juneteenth the actual anniversary of our podcast?
No.
It's not.
But the people didn't need to know that. I don't.
When you proposed that last year, I was like, is that true? Did it really work
Andrew,
out that way?
No.
I can't believe you forgot our anniversary.
I actually have no idea what day it was that we first recorded, but it was sometime around this year.
Yeah, it was June-ish.
Juneteenth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's our anniversary.
Yeah. So yeah, why not? So last year we did the same thing. We recorded remotely online. We were just a few months into pandemic times and just a few weeks into, just a couple weeks into what was a pretty volatile time.
Yeah.
And you know, we're still kind of dealing with that now. George Floyd had just happened. There were demonstrations and protests all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Our podcast blew up.
Yeah, it had just exploded over that weekend. Yeah, that was nuts. And when that happened, we were like, this will probably be the last time we ever have to record live, do a live thing.
And look at us in 2021.
2021, and again, it's kind of, I don't remember ever having a discussion about whether we would do this live in person or live over the internet. We just all assumed it would be on the internet. Isn't that right?
I think so.
It's just weird how like norms have changed. We just kind of assumed it would be like, it's more convenient on Zoom.
I really want to do it in person next year and have like M Squad like Tamron Hall has.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you guys know Tamron Hall?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
He comes on 2 hours after Good Morning America.
Oh, God.
Morning America from 7 to 9. And then from 9 to 10, it's Kelly and Ryan. And then from 11, it's Tamron Hall. And
how is it that you watch half of Minari, but you can recite the whole schedule for what happens 2 hours after Good Morning America?
Yeah.
I really enjoy my morning television shows. I'm into it.
Okay. Also, did you watch the rest of Minari, Beth?
Not yet, but I want
to.
I am going to watch it. I promise.
Oh, Beth.
So this is the problem with movies with me. I can't sit still. This is why I also can't read books. I have to listen to it on audio. So for me to sit still and watch a movie, that's really hard for me to do. So that's the issue with Minari. I got halfway through it, and then I think I started gardening or something.
That does make sense. I mean, like, right. Morning shows are a lot easier to just have as background.
In and out.
Yeah.
So I guess we're already running late, so we might as well jump right into this, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Should we?
So we like to start off our podcast because this is a podcast by talking about stuff we wish we had mentioned in previous episodes or want to correct from previous episodes. The one thing that I wanted to mention is in the last episode where we were talking about gender roles and women in the church, I referenced a feminist theologian, and I was referencing the name of the theologian is Valerie Saving, who wrote an influential essay in 1960 that kind of kickstarted that field of feminist theology. So that's the name of that theologian.
Nice.
I wanted to follow up with the thing I was into last time, which I hadn't actually started reading yet, so I lied a little bit. But I have been reading a book of poetry by Jericho Brown called The Tradition. And Beth, I thought of you when I saw this poem. It's a little outdoorsy. It's a lot of things. It starts off being about a garden. In any case, can I read it?
Yeah.
Cool. My mother grew morning glories that spilled onto the walkway toward her porch. Because she was a woman with land who showed as much by giving it color. She told me I could have whatever I worked for. That means she was an American. But she'd say it was because she believed in God. I'm ashamed of America and confounded by God. I thank God for my citizenship in spite of the timer set on my life to write these words. I love my mother. I love Black women who plant flowers as sheepish as their sons. By the time the blooms unfurl themselves for a few hours of light, the women who tend them are already at work. Blue. I'll never know who started the lie that we are lazy, but I'd love to wake that bastard up at 4 in the morning, toss him in a truck, and drive him under God past every stop in America to see all those Black folk waiting to go to work for whatever they want. A house, a boy to keep the lawn cut, some color in the yard. My God, we leave things green.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So speaking of previous episodes, today is Juneteenth, which is now a federal holiday.
Yeah.
What?
Remember I said last year for our like spoiler or not, what is it called? Teaser, that like Juneteenth, which should be recognized as a national holiday. And now it's recognized and I am not excited.
Wow. Yeah, it's your prophetessing at work again. Well, let's talk about that because it's Juneteenth, where we want to talk about two things: the fact of Juneteenth and also what our team is doing in terms of kind of a step toward reparations that we're calling the Juneteenth Jubilee Wealth Redistribution. But it is Juneteenth, and the federal government did make it a holiday yesterday, and the sentiment has generally been that just kind of a big So Beth, why don't you tell us why it is that you're not excited?
Yeah. So if folks aren't familiar with what Juneteenth is a holiday that commemorates the Southern slaves getting the information that they were emancipated. The Emancipation Proclamation went out in 1863. The Confederacy was like, F that, we don't care, we're the Confederacy. Then the Union won the war, and in 1865, enslaved African Americans in Texas were given the information that they were free on June 19th of 1865. So that is the history of Juneteenth. And I am not feeling excited about it being recognized as a federal holiday because, and I think I said this in an episode before, white people ruin everything. And I'm just like, Juneteenth is such a like sweet and like low-key holiday amongst like Black community members that I'm really, really afraid to see what Juneteenth becomes now that white folks are accepting it, and once capitalism gets a hold on it, because I oftentimes feel like white America does not accept things unless they can make money off of it. So I'm just waiting to see how commercialized Juneteenth becomes now. So it almost feels like a loss, actually.
Yeah, I totally get that. The thing about, I think the tension, one of the tensions that we might be feeling there is,
I feel like Ricky Bobby. Do you guys remember him in Talladega Nights when he didn't know what to do with his hands? That's what I keep going like this, and I put my hands in my lap, and I can't figure out what to do.
I have the live stream on my
like
other screen, and
totally natural.
I just feel like I look really awkward. I just feel like I fidget a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not used to being on camera.
Right. It's one thing to record this when it's just the three of us, but to be live, I just don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's why we're a podcast. I totally get the tension that you're talking about, Beth. I think that the difficulty here is that I think for those of us who see ourselves as part of a radical movement, there's always a tension when we think to ourselves. I mean, I think there's a tension to thinking of ourselves as American.
There is.
Yeah, because when the federal government, like what Frederick Douglass says, what to the slave is the 4th of July. So what does it mean when the federal government encompasses this thing, which is revolutionary, and makes it a federal thing, kind kind of like Jesus has this he has this woe against the Pharisees where he says, you killed the prophets and then you built monuments for them, and in so doing you validate what your ancestors did when they killed the prophets. It kind of feels like what America does. Like it kills these prophets, and then it names holidays, and then we celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day, then we celebrate Juneteenth, and it feels weird.
And it also feels really surface level, right? Like, okay, everybody's going to appreciate a day off. I sure did. But to celebrate the liberation of Black people without affording Black people their full liberation it's kind of, I don't know, it feels like a joke to me. Like, yeah, I want Juneteenth to be a federal holiday, but I also want there to be recognition that Black folks deserve reparations. I also want us to like start working against this, and we're going to talk about this more, but like start working against this wealth gap that we very clearly see. We see Black people get paid less. We see Black people have less access to wealth. So yeah, America, you have a lot to clean up. You can't just give us a day off and like, I don't know. It feels like a party. I saw a meme that said that. A pizza party.
I'm thinking just about like, and you brought in like the traditions that like Christianity is founded on, and you know, like that Jesus comes out of, and like his people, the Jewish people have holidays, but they're very there's prescriptive actions you take in each holiday, right? Like it's not just important to take the day off. There's ways to commemorate the day based on what happened. There's prayers. There's ways you eat your meal in a certain order. Like there's a way to like keep remembering the reason you're doing this in the first place. That when you just like rubber stamp a holiday in America with no context, it's just a matter of time before it becomes like another day where like cars go on sale.
That's a great point. In the Jewish tradition, you know, a good deed, a mitzvah, a commandment, there are three categories for why these commandments exist. And one of the categories for these commandments is the adat, you know, it's a commandment that helps us remember. So the holiday that exists, you know, in Jesus's time in the Jewish tradition isn't just there for its own sake. It's there to help the people remember where they came from and the things that happened and the ways that God delivered them. So yeah, I totally agree. And going back to what Beth is saying, I mean, the truth is like Juneteenth is now a federal holiday and more people know about it than ever. And we're in this weird, like new environment where last year, George Floyd happened. There's this idea of racial injustice and the wealth gap and police brutality is now more visible than it ever was. And so is the idea of reparations. So I guess what I'm interested in exploring a little bit is this idea of how we can take advantage of this, how we can be pragmatic about this. And I think one of the things that our team has done that I'm really excited about, that we're kind of kicking off with this episode, is something that is quite pragmatic. Beth, do you want to tell us what that is?
I do, but I want to go back to something that Kris just said. Sorry that I let you do that much of an intro.
You just my seg, Beth.
I know, I really messed up your segue. Sorry.
It's okay.
You sounded so good, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, it's cool. Respond to Kris.
The interesting point that you're making about holidays being almost rituals, like a ritualistic practice, is that I don't think there are any American holidays or any holidays that America takes part in that isn't just honored with capitalism. You know what I mean? Like the way we honor holidays in America is capitalism. So I think, and like America does not like to name things, right? Like America has for hundreds of years refused to name the sin of slavery. I mean, our vice president, who is a woman of color, said that America is not a racist country. It's that denial of the truth that would make it impossible for America to ever really properly commemorate a holiday. So I just want to throw that in. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that.
Oh, I was just sitting back thinking about, so that being true, like that, like different holidays capitalize on different segments of the market. What is the market we're trying to corner here with Juneteenth? Like, who stands to profit?
Yeah, I don't think that we should look at holidays as something that's
Yeah.
like that has a target market, or
Neither do I.
yeah.
Yeah, but I guess, Kris, what you're saying, like, what do the powers that be have to gain by recognizing Juneteenth? Is there something sinister behind it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I just sharing the suspicion that like a market will rise out of this holiday. No, I don't know of it like a specific group of,
you just
like
think that the trend of things that have been made like official they tend toward the status quo. Is that because I think is that what you're saying? I think I get that.
Yeah.
Like how Martin Luther King Jr. Day has become like community service, and part of that is good, but part of that just reinforces, just de-emphasizes the radical nature of Dr. King, right?
Yeah. Right.
Similarly, like if all we do with Juneteenth is recognize that, like, oh, abolition happened, hooray, then that de-radicalizes that. That's not necessarily what we're interested in. Right. What we're interested in is how can we radicalize people more? How can we take advantage of this Freedom Day to how can we take advantage?
Fire.
I know, Kris, I hope your house isn't on fire. How can we take advantage
in this house?
Is that actually a fire alarm?
Yeah, it is. But there must be sensitive.
Wow, it's very loud. This is going to be on the recording. Apologies to everyone. And Kris is getting up to address that, and hopefully the next thing we see isn't his room consumed by flames.
That's not what we're going to see. They're probably making like fish sticks in the oven or something like that. You know what? I feel like what America is going to try and do is make Juneteenth like a pre-July 4th, where there will be like things on sale to celebrate and all that jazz. No, I don't want beer on sale for Juneteenth. I don't want hot dogs on sale for Juneteenth. You know what I want? Bundles on sale for Juneteenth. Hair, it's very expensive. Make the market, make the things that are on sale should be for Black people, right? So give me some bundles for half off, right? That's what I want for Juneteenth.
Yeah.
Give me discount, I don't know. Church's chicken is good. Give me discount that. Those are the things that would actually honor the Black community, not like a hot dog sale.
Discount Church's chicken. They already give you an excessive amount of fries.
Not Church's.
So should we seg into the next thing while Kris is putting out a fire?
I can introduce our campaign.
All right. I'm excited to do that. So why don't you introduce our campaign here?
Yeah. All right. So sorry, folks. Andrew gave us an amazing segue earlier. I messed it up. But our church is really always looking for radical ways to follow Jesus. And one of our friends that leads Circle Peacemakers wrote a blog post a few months ago talking about how the church can be radical again. Our friend Rand Williamson that leads that team. And that article really stuck out to me because there was one point in which he said the church is responsible for looking at systemic oppressions and responding to it. And that made me and our team think of ways that we can respond to the systemic oppression of Black people in America, but specifically those that we're in covenant with, right? Those that we're in the church community with. So we've decided to do a radical Jubilee wealth redistribution campaign. So folks from within the church and outside, if you're somebody that doesn't go to Circle of Hope and you're watching this and you want to donate, leave a comment and we'll figure out how to connect to you. But our goal is to respond to the systemic injustice of Black folks having not received restitution, really, for the labor that we have done for centuries to build this country as enslaved persons. So we are trying to respond to that by raising $20,000 to redistribute to our Black covenant members, the folks that we're, again, in community with. So we're really excited about that. You want to add anything else, Andrew?
Yeah, kind of. You know what my first reaction to this was when I heard that our team was doing this?
What's that?
It was skepticism.
I'm sure, Andrew.
It was deep skepticism. And one of the reasons that I didn't want to listen back to our reparations episode was because I was afraid of what the opinions that I expressed when we recorded that like 2 years ago. Because I remember you talking about how people had just Venmo'd you money when you jokingly said like, Venmo me $50, Venmo your Black friend $50. And then people started sending you money.
And that's what really sparked the first idea of it in my mind. Remember, I started talking about it then. I was like, if random people wanted to just give me money, I wonder if we could get a collective of people together to redistribute to a lot of folks.
Yeah. And I think what I said was, I can see the headline now. White church pays Black people to be a part of the church. I think that's what I said.
Yeah.
That's what So yeah, when I heard the team was doing this, I was like, all right, this is what the team wants to do. But also like, I was aware of all the there were pitfalls that I was afraid of, like that, like this is based around guilt, like it's going to create it's going to create awkward situations. It's just going to be a way for people to alleviate their bad feelings and then move on, you know? But I don't know. Kris,
you're white.
Well, Kris, you're white. What was your initial reaction to hearing that we were going to do this as a church?
Terror. Here's what's going on for me when I think about this is that money really, like, there's a lot of things tied together, like, and with like money as the thing holding all of it. And just like, I have had all these feelings thinking about like wealth redistribution that have to do with like never getting my money back. And like, and like really these like feelings of like loss and poverty and scarcity have been, I've been feeling that a lot. Like on paper, really excited about wealth redistribution, love the story in Acts where the church comes together. And that's like one of the first things they do is they level out and share everything in common. When I think about doing that though, I'm scared.
Interesting. What are you're afraid of not being able to get that money back?
I'm like my money is like, it's keeping me comfortable.
What does the Bible say? Where your money is, your heart is?
Yeah.
Where your treasure is, your heart is also. Right?
Yeah. And I'm all about comfort.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. I mean,
I don't know why Andrew corrected the Bethany version of the Bible.
I don't know why I did either. That was pretty great already. I apologize for correcting. It's not like where your money is, your heart is like a worse translation than your treasure. So I apologize for that. Bethany still has to come out with her. You still have to come out with that Bible paraphrase. Everybody's still waiting on that.
That's right.
Yeah, Kris, I hear what you're saying. And I think honestly, the fact that the church enacts wealth distribution in the book of Acts, but not only that, but our church specifically, every week when we're talking about Sunday giving, our church talks about alternative ways to live and alternative ways of seeing our money and alternative ways of being alternative economies, you know? So I think what kind of turned it around for me was this recognition that this is already what we do. We already do this on a week-to-week basis when we give to the church, and when the church, you know, when the Compassion Fund, when the Common Fund, when we redistribute this money, we already do this, and we already ask people to do this on a weekly basis. You know, like when people give their money, it is in some way, it's a step toward the economy, toward the kingdom of heaven that we're trying to build. It's not the whole thing. It's in some ways, it's a symbol of this bigger thing that we're trying to be a part of. So even as we're doing it, even whether we're giving to the Juneteenth Jubilee Wealth Redistribution, or we're giving to the Common Fund, we recognize that this is inadequate, you know, but it's a way to change our hearts, and it's a way to change, to be part of something. It's a symbol, or it's a sign, you know.
And it's also radical in this way that I feel like white churches oftentimes give a lot of money to Black and brown countries like across the world, but they can't really recognize and honor, you know, their near siblings that are Black. And I think committing to redistributing wealth and working for justice for the people that you've like chosen to be in community with and have chosen to be peers with, right? Equal. There's no hierarchical dynamic like when churches give to you know, or not poor countries, but like poor cities in Africa, right? Like, no, you're redistributing wealth to somebody that you have to look at as a peer. And what does that bring up in you? And what do you need to examine there?
Yeah. And when we're talking about reparations or restitution, we're not just talking about, it's not charity, you know, we're not talking about somebody who is in need because of a hurricane or something, and who we need to get them back on their feet. We're talking about somebody who has been wronged and who has a right to be made whole. So what they receive is not charity. What they receive is due to them. Because of this system of white supremacy that has created this wealth gap. And we're looking as an institution at what are ways that we have been part of that? What are ways that our brothers and sisters are owed what they have been robbed of? And so this is a step toward that. You know, that's why what I really admire about our team is that they've been careful not to say that this is reparations. At best, Tess is like, this is a step toward reparations. And I really like that.
Yeah, I actually think that's a really important distinction, because I keep using the language of reparations, but yeah, it's a step towards it. It's our church, taking that first step. And I also kind of recognize, I'm thinking of the skepticism that you mentioned earlier, Andrew. I forgot that you said you could see the headlines, but I also want our church to, and those that we're in broader community with, to take kind of radical chances. Anti-racist, you know what I mean? Like, maybe this will flop. Maybe we'll only get like $1,000 or something. Maybe people will get really angry about it. But I think like working that out and wrestling with one another in community is important. Not easy. I'm sure I could end up being pissed off and be like, why did I say that on the podcast? But right now I feel like it's necessary.
No, absolutely. I'm with you 100%. There is one thing I wanted to ask before we move on here. Beth, when I was looking at the planning docs for this, I realized that you specifically mentioned that you've taken yourself out of, you're not going to receive anything because you're part of the planning committee. Do you want to talk about why it is that you made that choice?
It's interesting. I have mixed feelings about it. I think my instinct was to take myself out of it in case somebody like accused me of initiating this campaign just to benefit from it. But when I thought about that, I don't think anybody we're in community with feels that way about me. So yeah, I don't know, but it felt like the right decision to make. And I want to serve my community members, so I'm okay with that.
I respect that you're trying to protect our community by making that choice, even though I don't think that was necessarily a choice that you had to make. I just thought that was interesting when I was looking at that. Yeah.
What do you think about it? What do you mean?
I don't know. I'm thinking about how, I don't know. I mean, I expected you to be part of it, but I also don't want people to be like, I'm giving this to Bethany. And of course, all the donations and the recipients are anonymized.
Right.
So, I don't know. I admire that choice. I don't know. I'm still processing it, which is why I was kind of curious about it.
I think I came from it from an angle of like being a Black woman in America that like is always having to deal with that like welfare queen like type of like Black people are always trying to get free money. So as even as we're talking about it right now, I'm like, actually, why did I make that decision? Like, did I make that decision strictly from a place of racialized trauma? I might have.
Yeah.
Well, if that is why you made that decision, I hope that you unmake it. Because
Maybe
I really want
talk about this before talking about it on the podcast. We should have talked about it.
I don't know. I totally understand it. I totally understand you making this decision for the sake of all righteousness. At the same time, like, I do think that we, as a church, and also we as, the Black Covenant members around among us, should see this as a right, as someone has been hurt, someone has been damaged, and they have a right to restitution. So it's not about charity. It's not about that welfare queen stereotype. It's about what you're owed. So I don't know, that probably we'll have further conversations.
We should.
But let's move on to our next segment here, which is our are we allowed to say favorite Egyptian?
No,
we say favorite.
We no longer say that.
Favorite guest of and an ongoing.
Did we ever talk to Jonny about how Jonny, feel free to hop on whenever you get the chance. We'll
say
just
Jonny
vamp
3
for a bit.
times.
We'll just vamp for a bit until you get here. But I remember on the on our group Slack, Jonny was like, I feel weird when you guys say favorite Egyptian.
Yeah, we talked about it on a podcast.
Yeah, we did. And I'm glad he did that, and I'm glad we had that conversation, because again, like, if somebody, if my epithet was favorite Taiwanese person, I would probably feel some way about it. Hey, Jonny.
We did talk about favorite Egyptian before.
Yeah.
I muted the Facebook Live when you said favorite. I was hoping you said pastor, not Egyptian.
Well, you are my favorite pastor, personally.
I am your pastor. That's good.
But you're also my favorite pastor
of all time.
I'll give you that.
There's been a lot of good pastors.
I've met good ones and okay ones, but I honestly think that Jonny, not only is Jonny a good pastor, but I have seen Jonny. I feel like when I first started going to Circle of Hope, Jonny wasn't even a pastor.
Oh wow!
I'm just a homie.
Yeah, right. And Jonny has kind of developed into a pastor, and really, like, I don't know. I feel like you're a pastor. That's kind of weird, right?
That changed.
Do you remember that time I went to get a haircut on Temple campus and I ran out of money, so I called you?
I don't remember that. What did I do?
You paid for my haircut.
How much was it?
It was like $15.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I have no
record. Called Jonny of all people.
I don't know, because he was my pastor.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
I know, right?
Next time you're getting a haircut for $15, Bethany, you don't have the money, call me, okay? That's all you get, though.
$15. That's the cap. Like,
no,
why
I already talked about the bundle sale that I want, so I'm gonna hit you up when we get the bundle sales.
I'm gonna have to take a line of credit out for your haircut.
So Jonny is here Jonny as our pastor has also I'm in the same like group chat, Facebook group chat stuff as Jonny. So I feel like I'm relatively plugged into kind of what you're thinking about.
To the things I'm thinking about. Yeah, that's right.
So this is what I'm kind of curious about, because this has come up in a bunch of different discussions. I'm thinking about how
somebody has the Facebook Live up and it's coming back.
Echoing a little bit.
It's not me.
Oh my God.
Is it you?
It's Kris. It's his smoke alarm. It's the Facebook.
Come on, Kris. God, I am the worst tonight. I'm sorry. I actually closed my window because I could hear it, but it's not coming from outside.
You closed the
window.
Everybody. You closed your window because you could hear the smoke alarm?
Because I could hear the Facebook Live, even though my phone's right here.
Oh.
I always call smoke alarms cooking detectors because that's what they do when you. That's what they're showing you.
That's right. They're just telling on you, making a good meal.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we're thinking about with the team's Juneteenth Jubilee Wealth Distribution Project is this idea of embodying a way of living that is not yet here, but yet we want to kind of exist in right now. And that way of thinking about how it all shakes out, the fancy theological word for it is eschatology, right?
That's right.
So I guess this is what I wanted to talk about with Jonny here. How we think about the kind of Christian way of looking at history is this idea of God's love expressing itself through history until it infuses our existence, until it's everywhere, until knowledge of the Lord is as deep as the ocean, or like the waters cover the sea.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want to talk about here. In what ways is thinking about how it all shakes out, how we end up, useful to how we act now? How can it inspire us, or even how can it maybe even hamper us? Because I grew up thinking about the end of the world a lot, and it messed me up.
Why am I forgetting the what's his name?
Kirk Cameron, Left Behind.
Yeah, why am I forgetting the movies?
Left Behind.
That's it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that a lot of eschatological speculation, what it does is free us of responsibility for the earth and for around us, because we're going somewhere new. And so it doesn't really matter. These worldly matters that we care about ultimately don't, because we're going to heaven or leaving this earth behind. But and that informs politics, for what it's worth. That informs climate change politics for evangelicals and for others, climate change deniers and things like that. But eschatology also informs my politics too, right? Because when Jesus says, when he tells his disciples how to pray, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, right? On earth as it is in heaven. There it is. That's what's happening. The kingdom of God is both here and it's coming, and we're bringing it, revealing it in the earth right now, and we're also anticipating it. And with the kingdom of God comes blessing, and comes condemnation, loosening and binding. And so it's both convicting but also uplifting, and that definitely informs what we do now.
I think that's so interesting that you mentioned how it informs people politically, because obviously the most obvious expression of that is how a lot of evangelicals, don't care about the climate because everything's going to burn anyway, or how a lot of evangelicals are weirdly obsessed with Israel because they adhere to a kind of eschatology that has certain promises about Israel and the rebuilding of the temple and all these other things that are supposed to happen. I think a lot of people, myself included at a certain stage of life, probably saw that and probably saw the influence of eschatology, of thinking about the end of the world, on my present life, and was like, not worth it, not worth thinking about. But I think it's interesting, Jonny, that you said that it still informs your politics now, but you haven't thrown out this way of thinking. I mean, can you think of some ways that it does inform your current politics or how you live now?
Yeah, a simple example is a world without violence, a world without sort of violent law enforcement, let's just say, to get a specific for color correction, right? I'm talking about global peace, foreign policy, but also prison abolition, right? What you're going to hear, the objection to prison abolition, and Al Sharpton in 2014, when he was at Temple's campus and I was a loudmouth freshman, I asked him a question. I was reporting on his appearance because he was in the Democratic.
You were a freshman in college in 2014?
4. Did I say 14? 4.
Oh, okay.
Fact check.
I know. Yeah, she's like, man, you look pretty old. In 2004, when Sharpton was in the Democratic primary, he visited Temple, and I asked him, it was right after I read Angela Davis, Our Prison's Obsolete. And I said, hey, are you a prison abolitionist? And I was working for the Temple News at the time. And he goes, no, because some people need to be in jail. I believe in prison reform. I don't believe in prison abolition. That was interesting.
I think that's the attitude of a lot of that generation of Black folks.
Sure. And my neighbors too,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of live in that space. And I understand the practicalities of what we need to do, but if I need to have a prophetic imagination for what's possible and the future, God's kingdom coming, and a new earth being established motivates me. So it motivates me to believe in what seems impossible given our political circumstance and given our political economy. It shows me that something else is possible. And we need that hope because the political imagination we've been given is so limited. And so it can really dampen our fire, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting as we're talking about this, I'm thinking of Black folks and how Black folks have a particular connection to the afterlife because there's this hope for relief in the afterlife, but at the same time, it affects how we respond in the present and how we respond to disempowerment. And I think that Black folks, I don't want to use the word carelessness. I feel like it's carelessness in the evangelical church and how they relate to the earth and such. I feel like it's almost like a trauma response for Black folks not to be too concerned with what's happening here because we're so systemically disenfranchised that we have to latch on to the ideal of respite in the afterlife.
I mean, it's true that for a lot of people that suffer on earth, or even people who are grieving, eschatology for them means just heaven generally. I don't, let me think about this. I mean, one of the things that I found interesting on one of the group chats that we were in, Jonny, was your approach toward people who are kind of grieving or suffering and are concentrating that way of thinking about heaven. I mean, I don't know. I mean, on one level, I totally understand how, like, if all we do is think about heaven, that does encourage a kind of complacency or a kind of like, let everything burn. But on another level, I don't want to take anybody's comfort away from them.
Yeah, I think that theology is definitely developed. All theology is contextual, right? And so we write theology based on our experience, our circumstance, even our immediate circumstance. So if someone in grief needs to imagine an immediate afterlife for their lost loved one, like, I'll give you an example. That's if George Floyd's mom needs to believe that he's in heaven, right? George Floyd's, like, you gotta allow for that. Getting theological with someone who's grieving isn't that helpful, because what do you know anyway, by the way, about the afterlife? You're still here. You're still on this side of it. So you really can't talk forcefully. So I do allow for space for that because I understand that theology is people imagining God to meet their present needs. That's exactly what it is. Our issue is, European men developed theology that was right. Not contextual. And so now we think of that. We all non-white theology is contextual, and then all the white theology is objective. That's a problem, right? In thinking. And so the reason I have my own thoughts, I have my own imagination. I know it's comforting to me. And I know what works for me. And I have to be plain about my own preferences that inform my theology. And that self-awareness makes me a better theologian. Doesn't make me a worse one, right? And so if people need to grieve the way they're grieving, you create space for that,
Right.
Because in that moment, if you're the only thing that makes sense is amplifying your love as much as possible for people that are suffering. And can I keep going? I know maybe I can't, but
Go
is that
for
okay?
it.
Preacher?
Yeah, do it.
when you look at the passages in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, that depict a violent God, that's also contextual theology. That's a group of oppressed people wishing that their enemy is destroyed. That's what's informing that. And, you know, Miriam's song after the Red Sea crushes the Egyptians is a song of celebration that her enemies have been plundered. And to walk into that room and say, you're wrong for thinking this, God isn't violent. Well, do you not see what they're experiencing? Do you not know why? And I'm a peace person. You know, I believe in the peace, nonviolent God, nonviolent atonement, the whole thing. But I have to understand this is where you're coming from. So that really helps me understand Christians around me and past generations as well, you know. And when they don't consider my context, then that's where the harm happens.
Yeah.
You know, so we can hold it together until one of us starts thinking that our view of God is the supreme one. I think that's the issue. I think that I can even understand white theology, even though I disagree with it. The issue with it is
it doesn't see itself.
It oppresses me. It imposes itself upon me. It requires something of me. That's where the violence happens.
Yeah, that's so great. And that's such an inclusive and great way to think of theology as being us exercising our imaginations about God. It allows us to, that it legitimizes our own experiences of God, which I think is great. Should we leave it there? We're running late.
Sounds good to me. I appreciate being on the call here, y'all.
Yeah, thanks for coming back.
Yeah, anytime. Love you guys.
Love you too.
Put me on the podcast. Why y'all ain't put me on Resist and Restore?
You're coming on. We're going to talk about reparations. Okay, Bethany, that's happening.
All right.
Resist and Restore. Yeah, go to our SoundCloud, wherever you now have to do it. See, you did this to me.
No, do it.
Be sure to follow our podcast, our sister podcast, Resist and Restore. Ben, Rachel, Julie, and I do it. And we often have interesting guests. Future one is Bethany. And you know what? While I'm talking to you, go back and listen to Melissa Flora Bixler's interview with me on her book.
That was really
on her book, How to Have an Enemy. It's a great book. Highly recommend it to you. And Kris Eden was on this last week talking about participatory defense. And then I asked him, what would you do if Derek Chauvin came to the Participatory Defense Hub? Which was
Jonny, that was low. I wasn't expecting that.
I love that.
I apologize.
You told me all the questions,
that was some
and
good
then
radio.
Hits me with that one. But no, I like.
Because I was thinking about the worst person. I thought, what if the worst person comes? And
that was great, and I'm still thinking about it. And I'm actually like, I plan on taking this to some of the other hub leaders, and I'm going to write about it because it's such a great question.
It is a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate your stress, though. I can relate to that.
Yeah, I was like, I'm talking for the whole movement right now.
It was good. It was good. So yeah, Resist and Restore. And then you can find me at JonnyRashid.com.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Jonny.
Bye.
Thanks, Jonny. Talk about, he put interesting people on the podcast. He's had you on the podcast, Andrew, and he's had Kris on the podcast. Apparently, I'm not an interesting person.
Well, Beth, you got to work your way up, though. Like you have to see this as like a hierarchy. Like they're just preparing the way for the prophetess.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we're just John the Baptist to you.
That's right. We're just the stepping stones to get you there.
He did refer to color correction as Bethany's podcast in front of me.
Yes, he did recently say that.
Yeah, I felt some kind of way about that.
Andrew quickly responded, "Oh, so it's Bethany's podcast now?"
Kris, you want to read the copy that Tess wrote for us?
Yeah. So this is an important commercial break. I'm going to read it. That'll be the easiest thing for me to do. If you've enjoyed listening to us, help us reach more people. There are 2 easy ways. First, give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. And second, follow us on Instagram at Color Correction Podcast and interact with our posts and stories. Follows and interaction help the algorithm boost our page to more people, like the Book of Numbers, begat like. Again, leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts and follow us on Instagram at Color Correction Podcast.
All right.
Wow, you're good at commercial breaks.
Nice. Yeah, that was pretty good. So one of my favorite things that we do as a team is turn up to bail out, and one of my favorite, probably my favorite artist last turn up was Joy Ike. So who has just an incredible voice and was like playing her keyboard in that beautiful plant-filled sunlit room.
It was so amazing.
It was incredible, and we're so privileged to have her not live, but have her. She sent in a little thing that she recorded for us as our musical guest. So Brian, are we ready with that? I'm hoping that we are.
Coming any second now.
Okay.
You know what? I wish I had used Joy's image from Turn Up to Bell Out for that essay that I wrote about gardening, because she had so many plants and stuff in her background. It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
She's a fun follow on Instagram. She is a literal joy.
Yeah.
For sure.
Do you think we'll be able to have Turn Up in person this year?
Ooh. Y'all, if you aren't going crazy in the comments right now, that is a fire starter right there.
I definitely hope so.
We're going to have Beyonce this year.
Yes. And Solange.
What a thing to say.
All right,
JC's going to be there, but he's just going to be holding the
Yeah,
babies.
Brian, we're ready. So without further delay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Hi guys, this song is called I Don't Know Anything, and I wrote it about 4 or 5 years ago as a reminder to just stay humble and to not walk around as if I know everything and therefore have a license to treat other people with less respect because they don't know as much as me. And we live in a culture now where that's just how we operate. We say, well, I know more than you, therefore I think that you should do this. Therefore I think that you are less than because you don't think this in the way that I think this. And I wanted to share this song because it's kind of come up again for me as the song of the year for me. Even last year, things are playing out as this year evolves and passes by. We're seeing that things that we thought we knew about 2020 aren't playing out the way that we thought they would. And that's life, because you look back on life and you see that stuff changes. And then as time passes, you can make more informed decisions about what you thought you knew back then. Hindsight really is 2020. So I Don't Know Anything is a reminder to stay humble and to not let your pride make you treat other people in a way that is disrespectful and unloving. Thanks for listening.
But the older you get, the more you regret, and you know you don't know anything. Oh. I live my life as best as I try to give respect to every man, but that don't make me better. I thought that made me better. I don't know anything. Still I think I'm always run faster than you, but that don't make them better. Won't make you the lesser, 'cause they don't know anything. And you don't know anything. Still you think you're the boss, you think you're the savior, but every moment you act like a hater. You thought that you were better, that don't make you better. You don't know anything. Oh, you are not as big as you think, still you think you're the boss. You are not as big as you think, still you think you're the boss. You are not as big as you think, still you think you're the boss. You are not as big as you think, no, you are not as big as you think, still you think you're the boss. You think you're the savior, but every moment you act like a hater. You thought that you were better, that don't make you better. You don't know anything. I think I'm the boss, I think I'm the savior, but every moment I act like I'm a hater. I thought that I was better, that don't make me better. I thought that I was better, that don't make me better. I thought that I was better, oh, that don't make me better. I don't know anything.
That was amazing. I didn't look at it. You're on mute, by the way, Andrew. I
Wow,
didn't
yeah.
look at it before tonight. So I'm so glad that I got to watch it live.
Oh, a surprise. That's nice.
Yeah.
That was incredible. So that was amazing. Joy Ike, she is incredible. Find her at joyike.com. Find her music on Spotify. Follow her on Instagram. She's touring again. So
Oh, is she? Nice.
yeah, so she deserves everybody's attention. Isn't it amazing that she made us that video, that she was recorded it for this thing?
Yeah.
I feel super lucky. That
Yeah, no
was
kidding.
incredible. So we like to close out our podcast by talking about whatever we're into this week. Beth, you want to kick us off?
Sure. So Tess made sure to tell me that I had to say this in one of the podcast episodes. I am into Anthony Ramos, okay? Anthony Ramos is fine as hell. He stars in The Heights, which is on HBO Max. He's so cute. I was watching In the Heights and like live tweeting my crush on Anthony Ramos. So I'm super into Anthony Ramos and gardening this week.
Awesome.
Anthony, you out there?
He is great. He is great in that movie, and that was such a fun movie too.
It was really fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Bet you watched the whole movie, didn't you, Beth?
I didn't. I haven't seen the last 25 minutes.
Oh, well, that's in keeping. All right.
What?
That slides.
Are you serious?
25 minutes. I didn't expect to be put on the spot, so that's why I acted like I knew it was a great movie. I still need to watch the last 25.
You really have to. Okay, I don't feel so bad about you not having seen half of Minara anymore. This is just how you are.
No,
Yeah.
I really cannot sit still to do things.
Watch that last 25 minutes, Beth. Also, watch the second half of me. Not you just gotta catch up on everything.
Can we Beth, how much daytime television have you been watching in the background while this podcast has been going on?
So what you're not going to do, Kris? Me live, okay?
Wow. All right, Kris, what are you into?
As a segue from gardening, I'm staying at my in-laws' little cottage in Maryland. I've been here for about a week. I've really just been into this place, and I've been taking a lot of pictures and little sound recordings of all the creatures.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's amazing how each day is different, and there's something different happening at every hour of the day in the like flora and fauna of this place. I don't know if this is going to work. I can allude to things, or maybe I can share my screen. No, I can't. So in any case, maybe there'll be a different way that I can share the little animal sounds that I took in some of the photos. I have thousands of pictures of hummingbirds, you guys. I became obsessed.
You should give it to Tess, and we'll put it on the Instagram.
Totally going to
Yeah,
give
we'll
it to
put
you,
up on the
Tess.
gram.
Yeah.
That sounds really great.
Yeah.
I have generally been feeling kind of anxious and behind this year, I guess. But one of the things that has given me an incredible amount of joy is the Circle Mobilizing team, and
Aw.
everybody coming together to do this wealth redistribution project, which I said that when I first heard about it, I approached it with skepticism. And what I have learned from this is that I can trust my teammates to carry me forward and push me to a more comfortable place.
Wow.
And because I was saying to Tess, yeah, I'll review the materials with Wes. And then I was like, Wes, can I get those materials that you're going to send to cell leader facilitators and stuff? But my ulterior motive was I need to read this so I can be convinced. It's I don't just need to proofread this. I need to read it and believe it. And I do believe it. And I'm incredibly privileged to be working with just all these radical people, with Wes, with Tess, with Rebecca and Jennifer and Christy and Bryant, and everybody who has lent their logistical skill and their theological training.
We have a really good team.
We have an incredible team, and
Yeah.
I love our team. And I really see God at work, and it makes me feel really proud of this team that I'm part of and this church that I'm part of. So
remember when it was just the four of us?
I
Me,
know.
you, Kris, and Christy?
Yeah, I do remember that. It's been really,
and those four people are still here.
yeah,
Amazing.
So
can I say something about the wealth redistribution as it stands right now? Because it actually started today.
Okay.
And Andrew and Beth, people have been donating. We're almost at $1,000 just today.
I sent the email at 6:00.
Yeah.
So within 3 hours, we're almost at $1,000.
Incredible. So
that is incredible. Yeah. It makes
I'm
me feel like
grateful
this
for
is a telethon.
Yeah.
All right. So
the numbers are moving behind me.
yeah, that's what we got to do next year. So with that's our program for today.
Our program.
I love it.
So special thanks to Bryant, who has been our live stream manager.
Yeah,
here.
Bryant.
Thank you, Bryant.
A special thanks to Tess Patino, our social media goddess, and
Yes.
Luke Bartolomeo, who manages our website and does online streaming stuff. And also, normally to Joe Mahoney will be back in the studio soon. Jared Selby does our theme song.
And y'all, it is our 2nd anniversary, and we're so excited. We've been doing this work with y'all for 2 years. Keep on letting us know how you're Jesus following and being anti-racist by hitting us up on color correction. I mess it up every time, y'all, and now we're live, and I messed it up live. Color Correction Podcast. joyblack.com. Drop us a line and let us know how you're working out your faith in Jesus following. So with that said, for the last 2 years, stay black, Little Mermaid.